Hello, third graders. Welcome back to Fiesta Gardens Library. We are going to finish Third Grade Angels by Jerry Spinelli. We only have 3 more chapters to read. And if you remember, last time we read how Suds helped that dog not get hit by the car. But when he came home, all he was concerned about is if somebody saw him. And then he wrote the letter saying what a good boy he was. So he did this wonderful thing, but all he was concerned about was that halo. That's not okay. Chapter 15, the winner. Suds, Suds, I heard a voice calling me, a far, far away voice. Suds, Suds. Suddenly the voice was shocking like a smashed window. Suds! I was being yanked out of warm darkness. I was sitting on the edge of my bed. My mother was yelling at me. What are you doing? Why aren't you ready for school? Your bus is coming in 5 minutes. I'm not going, I said. I crawled back under the blanket. Are you sick? I heard her say. She put her hand on my forehead. No, I said. I burrowed into the pillow. She yanked the cover off. Then get ready for school. No. No? She said it again like she couldn't figure out what the word meant. No? Pray, tell why not. I lost. What? It's Halo Day. I lost. I'm not going in. How do you know you lost? Your teacher hasn't even announced the winner yet. I just know. Darren Trapp won. He's better than me. I'm not going in. What happened next was pretty embarrassing. My mother grabbed my clothes, including my underwear, dumped them on my head, and said, "You have 60 seconds to get dressed." I never made it to the bus. My mother had to drive me. When I walked into class, everyone looked up, a room full of eyes staring at me. Mrs. Sims smiled. "Welcome, George," she said. "You're just in time." She was holding the first halo. I took my seat and got the shock of my life. Judy Billings turned around and smiled at me and whispered, "You're gonna win." I had a flash fantasy. I heard Mrs. Sims call my name. I saw Judy Billings put the halo on my head like a crown. Then she gave me that smile and whispered in my ear, "Congratulations, Suds." Then she kissed me. But then I heard my mother's voice from the ride into school. If you lose, be a good loser. It's easy to be a good winner. Any old slob can do that. I knew the fantasy would not come true. I knew the winner would not be me. I was right. I knew the winner would be Darren Trapp. I was wrong. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mrs. Sims in her special "This is a big deal" voice said, "the first halo of the year goes to Constantina Pappas." Chapter 16. Outside, inside. I think I was a bad loser. I was talking to my mother after school. I wasn't in the tub because I wasn't stressed out anymore. All the nervousness was gone. I felt limp as a noodle. "How so?" said my mom. "Didn't you congratulate Constantina?" "Yeah, I did," I told her. When Mrs. Sims said her name, I clapped with everybody else. And when Mrs. Sims put the halo on her head, I clapped again. "Sounds to me like you did pretty good," said my mother. But then something even worse happened. What was that? In the playground, after lunch, kids were going up and saying, "Way to go, Constantina," and stuff like that. I was watching the tree in our backyard. One leaf was orange and red. Fall was coming. "And," said my mother, and then Constantina was coming toward me. She had a funny look on her face. "Funny how?" my mother asked. "I don't know," I said. "Kind of like she did something wrong, and then she took off her halo and she said, 'I think there was a mistake. I think this is yours.' And she held out the halo to me, and I took it." Here's a picture. Mom pulled me close to her. "Tell me." I looked at the red leaf. I took a deep breath. I couldn't help it, Mom. I shouldn't have took it, but I did. I worked so hard for it. I believed her. It was a mistake. It really was mine. I looked up. I think my mother was looking at the red leaf too. Finally, she said, and then? And then, I don't know, I looked at Constantina's face, and for some reason I just gave the halo back and walked away. I might have said, "Congratulations, Constantina," but I'm not sure. She pulled my ear. "You gave it back to her. Sounds to me like you're a good loser." But that's outside, Mom. Inside, I feel like a really bad loser. Maybe the baddest loser there ever was because I wanted to keep it. I wanted to put it on my head and everybody would come up to me and say, "Congratulations, Suds." Mom, I was only good on the outside. I was crying again. Now both of my mother's arms were around me. That's when we heard the doorbell ring. I opened the door. There's Mom hugging him. I opened the door. It was Mrs. Sims. Chapter 17, surprise. I almost fell over when I saw her. "Hi, Mrs. Morton," she said, a big smile on her face. "Hi, Suds." I almost fell over again. "You called me Suds." She laughed. "Well, I'm in your territory now, so Suds it is." My mother invited her in. We sat in the living room. My mother offered her tea or coffee or juice, but she said no thank you. The smile didn't go away. But it changed. She took a deep breath. She spoke to my mother. I felt I should stop by because, now she spoke to me, I could see how the events of the day were affecting Suds. What was she talking about? "Did your son tell you that the first halo went to Constantina Pappas?" she said. "Yes, he did," said my mother, as soon as he got home from school. Mrs. Sims reached over and gave me a knee pat, as if I did something great. "Good," she said. "And I was happy to see you join the others in congratulating Constantina. I know how badly you wanted that halo, Suds. I know how hard you tried." I didn't know what to say, and I still didn't know what she was doing in my house. Now she was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. "Suds, you are an angel. You'll get your halo soon enough." I got the feeling she could see inside me. "You were disappointed you didn't get it this morning, weren't you?" "A little," I said. "But not really surprised?" "Not really." "Why not?" "I thought Darren Tapp would get it." "Ah, Darren Tapp, yes." She looked at my mother. "Another boss angel." "And the blurts," I said. Her eyes went wide. "The blurts?" "The first couple of days of school," I said. "I kept blurting out stuff without raising my hand. I guess that sunk me." Mrs. Sims and my mother both broke out laughing. I don't know what was so funny. When Mrs. Sims stopped laughing, she said, "So you must have been really surprised that Constantina Pappas got it." I nodded. "Because you didn't even think she was interested, did you? You didn't think she was even trying." She poked my knee. "Did you?" "No," I said. "Well, guess what?" she said. "What?" "You were right. She had no interest in getting the halo, not at all. She wasn't even trying." "Really?" I said. This was getting more and more confusing. There they are talking on the sofa. She nodded. "Really? And then a funny thing happened. In all my years of doing angel halos, it's never happened before." She stopped talking and just stared at me. After a while, it occurred to me that I was supposed to ask what happened, so I did. "What happened?" "Remember the day you put the note on my desk, telling me how you saved the runaway dog in the street?" "Yes." "Well, somebody else left a note on my desk." "I know," I said. "Darren Tapp did." She stared at me, at my mother. She blinked. She shook her head. No, not Darren Tapp. The note was from Constantina Pappas." I just stared at her. She leaned in toward me. "Would you like to know what Constantina's note said?" "Okay." "Her note told me the same thing your note said." I was more confused than ever. "Huh?" I said. "She told me she was up the street that day and she saw the whole thing. She saw how you ran into the street and stopped the little dog from being hit by the car. She said it was such a wonderful thing you did that she thought I ought to know. She wanted me to know that you were an angel, even after school. Oh, 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 I heard my mother say. I looked at her. Her eyes were glittery. And that's why I gave the first halo to Constantina Papa, said Mrs. Sims, because, yes, she was trying to get the halo, not for herself, but, she smiled, for somebody else. My mom gave a little whistle. Whew! She was fanning her face with her hand now. Mrs. Sims stood up. Well, gotta go. Speaking of dogs, it's way past Mr. Moto's dinner time. At the door, Mrs. Sims turned and gave my mother a hug. Then she hugged me. The door was shut when suddenly I thought of something. I pulled open the door. She was almost to the sidewalk. I called, Mrs. Sims, my mom says you have spies. Joey Peterson says no. Who's right? Behind me, my mother was laughing so hard, I thought you might get sick. So was Mrs. Sims. She was wobbling. She hardly made it to her car. I never got an answer. Here they are. The end. I'm so glad we got to read Third Grade Angels. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I really think that we all learned from Suds about doing good for others for the sake of doing good, not for your own self-promotion. Doing good for the sake of doing good because you are good inside. I wish everyone a super happy Halloween, and next week we'll get to a couple of Halloween stories. Bye-bye, Third Grade Angels.